And that's why I'm so happy to hear that after all these years, all these seasons, all these game after game recaps that we've all done, Chris Paul had to come to his senses and come to the Bay. That's the only way we'll ever get a ring. You know, normally this is a very joyous occasion whenever I get legends like this. I got Patrick Murray all the way from the UK. Forbes legend, did it all. Golden State of Mind, Dimension HQ. This guy understands the salary cap like nobody's business. And then, of course, you got acclaimed author Dr. Tom Bevilacqua, Alameda's own. This is a guy who knows the game inside and out. And so to have these two guys together with me, guys who have been through the blog wars and emerged victorious, and have their work expand beyond the blogs into not only your hearts and also Costco, because apparently Dr. Tom's book can be found at Costco. Dr. Tom, what's the name of that book again?
What is it? Golden Age, the brilliance of the 2018 Golden State Warriors. Pick it up and then pick up your 4 tires at Costco too. Get your rotisserie chicken and your large lasagna, and pick up a copy of that book too if it's still there.
That's what Dr. Tom's about. He has a partnership with Costco. Honestly, that's what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am Daniel Hardy, the Gold-Blooded King, and this is an emergency podcast. Normally, after the season ends, we go our own separate ways. You'll be with our families, get into our work, and just kind of recuperate from a very long season. But there's some news here that Dub Nation may have heard about. The Hall of Fame point guard, also known as the Point God, Wake Forest legend, Houston Rockets legend, New Orleans Pelicans or Hornets, New Orleans Hornets icon, Los Angeles
Oklahoma
Clippers,
City Thunder participant,
Los Angeles Clipper Lob City legend, Washington Wizard for a week or less, and newfound Golden State Warrior Chris Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, which you must be living under a rock, Chris Paul is now a Golden State Warrior. Now, a long time ago, these 3 guys, we all together was like, what if we did a living historical document that showed just how much devastation the Golden State Warriors empire has created across the league? We call it the path of destruction. Folks, I thought the Boston Celtics were the last entry. You could put the Kings in there, but I respect Mike Brown. We'll save them for next year because I'm sure we'll see them again and we'll eliminate them again. But the Chris Paul, I thought his time was over. Last year, he had the Phoenix Suns, a team that was a juggernaut. They won all the games of the world. Had Joe Verray, a blogging legend, shaking in his boots. And if you're wondering how the Golden State Warriors fared against them in the playoffs, they didn't, because the Phoenix Suns got eliminated by Luka Doncic. Now, Dr. Tom, what did Andrew Wiggins do to Luka Doncic?
Just like Luka Doncic eliminated Chris Paul, I believe Andrew Wiggins eliminated Luka Doncic, which with a dunk that Baron Davis looked at and said, "All right there, young man, I like what you're doing. I see the lineage." He was just like, "I'm going to end this Euro right here.
I'm going to end it." Okay, and now. We didn't meet last year either because we won the first round, and so did they, but then lost in the second round. Patrick, who did those Suns lose to?
They lost to the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic.
Now, hold on, I'm confused. How could a team with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Dr. Tom's best friend Kevin Durant not get past Nikola Jokic and Denver Nuggets? What do you think went wrong in that series? With Chris Paul in mind.
Oh, did he get injured again? I just thought Jokic was the best player in the playoffs last year. So I'm like, but yeah, Chris Paul got injured. You're right.
Chris Paul got, and is this the first time Chris Paul's gotten injured in the playoffs?
I mean, there was a famous occasion, obviously, against the Warriors, which we would never have beaten the Houston Rockets if it weren't for that Chris Paul injury. A lot of people think, forgetting conveniently that Andre Iguodala, our kind of babysitter off the bench, park that one for later, got injured in end of game 3, wasn't it? So he missed the rest of that series. So Yeah, convenient. People conveniently forget that. But yeah, Chris Paul might have got injured then. There might have been one or two other times. I can't remember.
Oh, I can remember. Do you recall when the Warriors were supposed to meet the Clippers in a galactic battle of epic proportions in the Western Conference Finals? I think it was the year that the Warriors won their first championship.
2015 when wasn't that like I can't remember which of the Doc Rivers blows a 3-1 lead, but wasn't that one of them?
When they blew to the Houston Rockets?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Shout out Josh Smith. He was immense in that. Do you remember that? It's like game 5, game 6, and he just started raining threes in the fourth quarter, and that just
they had to put Harden on the bench, and they came back. That was the key. Was, it's funny, these teams realize not playing James Harden usually results in better success on the court. Ooh, he's catching strays. How about that?
Wait, you're saying that it's not just the Golden State Warriors? Because I know I was there when Chris Paul eliminated the Golden State Warriors in 7 hard-fought games. There was racism. There was sexy intrigue off the court with Donald Sterling, if you know what I mean. There was I don't care if you mess around with other people, but Magic Johnson, like that, was that racist? Or was that just, anyway, I'm not getting that because I love Magic Johnson, legend. But all I'm saying is the Los Angeles Clippers got Mark Jackson fired, and I will never forgive them for that. Is Steve Kerr a superior coach? Absolutely. Were they wrong to fire Mike Jackson? You bet yourself, because a black coach took that team from the trash heap to the second round of the playoffs one year and the first round, which actually seemed like they went backwards. But however, you must remember, Chris Paul did foul Steph Curry on that game-winning three-pointer attempt. I think it was in game 5? Game 6? I can't remember. But you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Chris Paul has been there celebrating against us with Blake Griffin and Aaron Jordan. Then there he was, name a regular season when he was with the Rockets, or I think he actually did it Steph Curry shimmy. You know what I mean? Like this guy, Steph Curry and Chris Paul have been engaged in a psychological warfare again. I know off the court, they're probably best friends. Chris Paul mentored Steph Curry, North Carolina guys, but Steph Curry and Chris Paul had beef on the court. Not only Chris Paul and Steph Curry, Chris Paul and Klay Thompson, Chris Paul and Draymond Green, Chris Paul and DeMarcus Cousins, Warriors icon, Chris Paul and Kevin Durant. You name a player, you name Chris Paul, it's been beef. And that's why I'm so happy to hear that after all these years, all these seasons, all these game after game recaps that we've all done, Chris Paul had to come to his senses and come to the Bay. That's the only way we'll ever get a ring. Welcome, Chris Paul. Welcome to the Bay Area. Now, I want to get into that. But before we do, Patrick Murray, if you've been following the DNHQ vidcast, you know Patrick Murray said this very early on, very clearly. Jordan Poole has to go. Jordan Poole has to go. And I said, come on, Patrick. He had one bad year, and he was a victim of domestic abuse or something. I don't know what it is, but when you get beat up by your teammate, come on, it's tough. Now, what was Jordan Poole saying? We'll never know. And after seeing him play the playoffs, I would have pushed Jordan Poole, not me, never me, maybe others. Maybe others wanted to physically assault Jordan Poole. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying there was a sentiment out there. Patrick Murray, how did you know Jordan Poole had to go?
I think for me, I took some flack for saying that in the comments. For me, that like from the moment that punch happened, it was pretty clear that it was going to mess up the chemistry of the team, and it did. And like all season long, they were lesser than the sum of their parts. And the whole kind of thing of the Warriors that they're greater than the sum of their parts. They were less than the sum of their parts, and it just didn't work. Poole was kind of out of control. Draymond Green wasn't kind of able to be himself in terms of the leadership on the team, and the result was this kind of disjointed season where it was really painful to watch. I think I found it a very frustrating year because I thought they came into that year with a genuine chance to repeat coming off the title, and it was just clear that that punch had completely kind of thrown the whole team into disarray. Now, is it fair that Jordan Poole's the one to go? No, he's the victim. He's the one who got punched. It's not fair. But the reality was, if the Warriors want to win another championship in the Steph Curry era, who is the best player, one of the best players of all time, probably the best player they will ever have, you need Draymond Green. And the way that Jordan Poole was playing, you couldn't keep him. And then there was the kind of contract issue. Now, I was very clear that, and I've been very clear all the way through, that there is a path through. They could have paid them all. And I think we're going to see.
Sorry, Patrick. It was me. I gave you flack. I'm sorry. It was me.
No. Like lots of people do, but it's fine. But like the money side of it, it's very clear they can rack up they're going to rack up the money this year. So it's clear they could do it. But longer term, it's a lot of money to have paid him coming off a decent run. Obviously, he helped win the championship. But they were locked into a lot of money, and the CBA, particularly the second apron thing, is much more restrictive, I think, than a lot of people imagined it was going to be. So the financial part is, obviously Chris Paul. We can come to that.
No, Patrick, no. Now that your plan worked out perfectly, you're going to be all gracious and talk to the salary cap. Talk about the Jordan Poole that you wanted gone, not the punch.
Did
Draymond punch his handles?
No, I can't take players who not playing defense, not trying on defense is something that, and like the turnovers and the shot selection, I found it really grating. I think he will be perfect for the Washington Wizards. Where he's as many shots as he can eat. No one cares if he doesn't play any defense. It's the East, so he could probably make an all-star team.
Back up. You got up. He said the turnovers, the terrible defense, the terrible shot selection. That's what I think is a perfect Washington Wizard.
Show me I'm wrong, but yeah.
Well, two things. It's the long line of the Wizards taking some of our fill the stat sheets, but not make the winning plays between Antoine and my beloved Gilbert Arenas, sadly. But also now, we'll probably get to talking about it later. Yet another, the Warriors taking on a Washington Wizards castoff and hopefully getting them to a title. We did that with JaVale, Nick Young, Otto Porter Jr., and now we're going to do it with Chris Paul.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about the angle. That's hilarious. I do feel like I don't want to be the person that, this microwave era, the Skip Bayless era where people get on the mic, get a little limelight and start disrespecting these guys. And I know, and we all aren't the kind of guy, But one thing that I do think is interesting is I wasn't even mad at Jordan Poole. I'm talking about as a fan, not as a person. I think Jordan Poole as a person, God bless him for helping us bringing that championship in. That was huge, man. His presence throughout the post-Durant years. Because remember, Dr. Tom and I actually watched him in Summer League in Vegas when he got drafted. And we were like, this guy's got something special. And you were like, if he ever slows it down, I just got that star quality. And we watched him through that first rough year, watched him through the lockout year, the pandemic year. We saw him come to life in that playing year. We saw him get some more responsibility. And then in that 2022 season, when Klay Thompson was out for the first 30 games, Jordan Poole was balling. Jordan Poole was helping this team look like a whole different dimension. And that first round against the Nuggets, now you're defending champions. I know Jamal Murray was out, but Jordan Poole was roasting them with barbecue sauce. Okay. So of course we know against the Memphis Grizzlies, his numbers kind of went down a little bit, but he was still a factor. They had to account for him.
Yeah, I mean, he did karate chop Ja Morant's legs. So,
okay. You mean when he allegedly stole his ACL off his leg? Like he's a sorcerer. Anyways,
he used the force and was like, "I'm taking this now."
Jordan Poole, even against that Boston series, where I think we had our first clue of like, in this Boston series, he's having a little more trouble getting to his stuff. He still was a key contributor. I recall his basically full court heave he shot to give us some serious momentum at home. That shot, that was the stuff Steph Curry used to do. Jordan Poole was like our new junior Steph Curry. So thank him for all the memories he gave us. We watched ample games live with him in there. This guy played his heart out, gave 110% effort. I love Jordan Poole's game. He was so fun. Now, this year was the year that we expected him with the contract and with the assault from Draymond to finally ascend himself up to take a certain part of this team that meant that, certain issues would no longer be a problem. We shouldn't need questions about shot creation after Steph Curry. We shouldn't have questions about who's running the second unit. Jordan Poole, that's your job, buddy. Take over second unit. And when Steph's not in the game, do your best Steph impression while under control. Now, is that oxymoron? Steph and under control? I don't know. He's the greatest player of all time. You tell me. But Jordan Poole, you had everything you needed here, except whatever that chemistry thing is. And that's where I feel like Patrick's point the whole time was, yeah, sure, he can put numbers up, he can be flashy, but is he fitting into this team? A championship would say yes. But this year, especially in that Kings series, no, Lakers series, I know. Hey, for the Lakers, Matt, what's his name? Austin Reeves, I guess is the greatest player of all time. I don't know. But Jordan Poole in that first round series this year with the Kings, didn't we all feel like, why isn't he destroying them?
Yeah. Well, I think, one thing, and this has come up before, I mean, it gets kind of lost that he was he was near the bottom of the first round when we took him. So like, this isn't someone who, you're thinking about as like, the sort of like a top elite blue chip prospect. And that doesn't mean, and he obviously contributed and was a part of that championship run. But I also think those players, there's more volatility there. You have these, they can have games where it's the consistency. That's the thing I think that separates the guys you get at the top of the draft versus then. Like, you can have those flashes. And I think, if we're thinking about, why Poole was someone to move on from, I think some of that is that volatility, especially looking at this past season. Like, granted, and like it can't be understated. The punch with Draymond Green and like, what did that do in terms of his mentality, his feel, all this sort of stuff. But you still they still gave him that big extension after that, and so you're expecting him. You're saying, okay, you are this exceptional low first round draft pick. You were expecting you to, if not get better, at least sort of stay at where you were last year. And you didn't see that. It was just too inconsistent. And like, that's the thing, in addition, like turnovers and shot selection is a big part of it. I think it's that his play could just be, and that was the thing in the Kings series. It just was so, it was bad, like kind of poor play throughout, but there just wasn't the consistency there. And if you're the Warriors and you're thinking, we've got this elite, one of the greatest ever, Steph Curry. We have to maximize this. What you probably are looking most for is consistency. And that's, I think, when they looked at Poole, they just saw a player who there'll be highs. And this is the thing. He might lead the league in scoring next year. He probably will be an all-star of the East, but I just don't trust it in terms of consistently in the sort of pressure cooker playoff or these really tense situations.
So you're saying to give him a contract extension of that value with everything you just said may have been a mistake.
Well, like I said, they were probably looking at him and saying, after that championship season, after the kind of the path he'd been on, it was the right move. And also, I think if you think he's got, and like, the Warriors still got, like, we'll get into who they got for him. They still got a player for him who, in theory, if he's healthy, can play. But you don't want to let him walk, and you don't. So like that extension, I think no matter what was the right deal. It just, this season really showed it was, maybe they overvalued him a little bit. But I don't think it's just because this move does not mean that the extension was a mistake.
Okay. I have two questions for you, and they're both yes or no. And the first question: is Jordan Poole young enough that moving on from him could be foolish?
Yes, he is that young.
Okay. Second question is he so young that the Warriors don't have time to develop him more?
Yeah, I think that. But then you think about the other younger players they have, and I think Moody's the key to why moving on from Poole you could do it. But those players have shown a more consistent, well, one, they're higher draft picks, they're seen as big, but they've also shown a trajectory that I think is, again, more consistent. And I think with Poole, you look at it and you see that it's a volatile asset. And if you're trying to win a title, if that's the goal, you need consistency. And I think that's why you look at him and you say, okay, that's the place where we could make a move. And
right here, Dr. Tom, I want to ask these questions, but pivot back to Patrick, because I'm very interested in what both you guys think.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Tom, are you saying the Golden State Warriors in the back of their mind were like, we can let go of Jordan Poole because we got Moody?
Yes, I do think that's the case.
Patrick, thoughts?
I think Moody's playing this playoffs. I think that's absolutely right, because what it gives you is that steady consistency. I completely agree with that and agree with what Tom said. I think the challenge for Poole, and I think he's in no way is he a bust. He's a 28th pick. He's done phenomenally well. How many 28th picks get that kind of contract? I do think it was a bit of an overpay, but it was in the right ball zone. But the problem is the role you need him to play on the second unit as the facilitator backing up Steph Curry. He's just too erratic, basically. And I think, there is a world in which, later on in his career, he becomes a really positive contributor on a winning team. Like, Jamal Crawford, he was, as a young player, on the Knicks and, a bunch of other places, kind of erratic, but, could put up numbers and, all the things you kind of say about Jordan Poole. In the end, he won several Sixth Man of the Year, and, he was a positive contributor for winning teams. So there's a path for Poole. I think the problem is for the Warriors, they haven't got enough time for him to tread that path. Whereas someone like Moody, like, he fits that role. Now you've got to get someone to run that second unit. And that's why I think the specific trade they did is quite interesting. Well, it's very interesting. But I will just say one thing about Jordan Poole. You can't separate out this trade from the money, because they have, he was going to be on 28 million this year, 28 and a half, and escalating up. And like, that is a big contract. Moody's still got 2 years of his rookie deal left. Kuminga, on a slower development trajectory, 2 years the rookie deal. I think their development trajectory is about to take a massive leap up forwards.
Pardon me. Quick question. Do you think Poole helped Kuminga get better?
No.
That's a very interesting thing, considering Poole was tasked with running the second unit. Do you think it was too much to ask for Poole to make Kuminga better?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a word like, and in some ways the Warriors have been quite unfair to Jordan Poole, because, well, first of all, the punch, and then Draymond doesn't get punished at all is that's not good. But then
he got suspended one lunch or something like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he missed a few days of practice, but it wasn't a problem. I don't think that was fair on him. I think the role they needed him to play was the wrong role. And what was actually quite interesting was when Steph was injured, so he missed a few games throughout this year, Poole did play quite well as a starter, but quite often Ty Jerome was running the team. Like, he got a lot of minutes running the team, being kind of that steadier point guard. Like, Poole is, to me, he's like a Jamal Crawford microwave scorer, and like, not in a kind of, he can only play 20 minutes, but like, that's the thing he can be. He can have a really good career like that.
One question for you. With that in mind, and I don't want to derail your train of thought, but I'm very interested when you said that, because you said Jamal. People thought Jamal Murray was a microwave scorer, and Jamal Murray is proving to be a top tier point guard. Jordan Poole was supposed to give us that Jamal Murray-esque combination of explosive scoring and ball distribution. That was his job.
Jamal Murray is like, I'm sorry, he's a different caliber of player. His efficiency numbers are particularly in the playoffs, are way above what Jordan Poole's ever done. And like, the other thing is, he tries on defense. Like, he's a good defensive player, and that, like, it really matters. And so, like, as we talked about the playoffs when they won the title, he did get schemed out. He had some really good games. He did help them win games. There's not, but he did get schemed out. And in the finals, he was. I mean, I'll have to go back and check, but it's like 20, 25 minutes a game. Whereas Jamal Murray's out there 40 minutes a game because he's got the whole package of what he can do. He's shot 50, 40, 90, I think, for certainly a lot of the playoffs. So like Jordan Poole is like he had a hot streak at the end of last season, but if you look at his career, it's 33, 34% 3-point shooting. He shouldn't be.
That's not fair to him.
It's shot selection. It's not talent. It's shot selection, and that's kind of that is going to take. To the question you asked, Tom, that is going to take. That's the sort of thing that takes longer to sort out than the timeline the Warriors have got.
Do you feel like the shot he took at the end of Game 1 against the Lakers was a good shot?
I mean, you know what? There could have been worse.
What, Patrick? What?
I don't. I'm not going to fault him for that. Actually, I think there are loads of examples of bad shots that he took, but in that instance, I mean, you'd like him to be a step closer to the line, but he was open. They were closing out on him. There wasn't a lot of time left on the clock. But the reason they were in that situation, I go back to this, is because they just totally kicked away Game 6 in Sacramento. So they were knackered coming off a 7-game series. And why did they kick away Game 6? Steph Curry has to give this big speech ahead of Game 7 about if you're not in, don't get on the bus. And now we don't know who that was aimed at, but I don't think there's been a fair bit of speculation out there by people who are really in the know, people who cover the team very, very closely, that was aimed at Jordan Poole. So it goes back to this chemistry point. It wasn't working for whatever reason,
if you're going to let De'Aaron Fox cook you all night, don't get on the bus.
But
if you're going to let the backup guy from the Hornets,
Malik Monk,
if you're going to let Malik Monk cook you all night, don't get on the bus. I mean, Malik Monk was going berserk. I was like, is Malik Monk the GOAT? I was like, Malik Monk is killing us. But then I was like, who's guarding Malik Monk? Wait a minute. We have a 6-man. They have a 6-man. They're guarding each other? Wait a minute. Is Malik Monk better than Jordan Poole?
Well,
I do think. Sorry, Tom.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do think I'm sure we'll get onto this, but I do think my initial reaction to the trade, kind of a number of things went through my mind, but I do think is that really the best value they can get out of him? Because I thought even in that contract, I still thought young upcoming guard. There are teams that need that. Is that
That's
really?
I thought that was a spite trade.
I thought that about. Can I just say there is one other trade that I thought that about, and I thought this is a terrible trade.
Andrew Wiggins.
What are they doing? Exactly. I thought that Andrew Wiggins trade was like a disaster. I'm like, what are you doing? This contract's worth nothing. It's like a negative value. You're giving out D-Lows. Maybe not great.
Oh no! Don't you dare! I knew it. I knew both of y'all would do this. I knew both of y'all would do this. No. Stop it right now. Andrew Wiggins was 17 years old when we traded for him. Okay. He was born in Minnesota, apparently. He got screwed with game-changing player, big Karl-Anthony Towns. Andrew Wiggins had the worst possible experience, but he was not ever the driver of the boat. Chris Paul been driving boats for a long time, okay? Let me tell you something right now. Chris Paul is one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. That's why it's shocking he keeps having these bizarre failures to make it to the Did he have a 2-0 lead in the finals?
Yeah.
But I will say this for Chris Paul. I love to sports say Chris Paul like anyone who has an affiliation for the Warriors. Mm-hmm. Most of the time he's lost in the playoffs. He's either lost to a better team, and they did lose to that Milwaukee Bucks team was a better team than the Suns team, or he has got injured. And the injury thing is a real thing, right? Because he is going to be 39 years old in next year's playoffs. And so that to me is put aside the fact that this is a deal with the basketball devil, right? Basically, to try and get Curry a 5th ring. That's the thing. If he's healthy, this team can win a championship. They can get Chris Paul a ring. And we're all going to be sobbing in the shower afterwards, but Chris
Paul is going to make the Warriors so good.
So
Chris Paul is going to make the Warriors so good because he is not going to be okay with them making stupid mistakes. He's going to be like, guys, just give me the ball. I'll make sure we don't have a turnover. I promise you. And we're going to be like, we don't believe you. What are you talking about? We talking Chris Paul. You're trash. No. The thing that Chris Paul always did to us, I know you could agree with me, a Chris Paul good game against us, it was like 17 points, 12 assists, 1 turnover. You're like, oh, this guy just controlled the game, and we're doing wild ass passes. He didn't. He did the time improvement pick and roll. He flopped against the free throw line. He's played the game in a way he managed the game. And then here we were begging. First of all, the Los Angeles Lakers were not that good, and they beat us because we didn't have chemistry. They were the 7 seeds. We should have annihilated them.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that the team that beat the dynastic Memphis Grizzlies was not a great team?
Now, hold on.
I would say something about Ja Morant catching a stray, but that's probably, I might get suspended for that too.
Yo, what the Lakers did to the Grizzlies, I want to thank LeBron for that. Thank you, LeBron. And LeBron was like, look, I have my struggles. They're trash. They're trash. I refuse to lose to Ja Morant and Dylan Brooks. I refuse. Look, first of all, if you ever want to give me of the LeBron GOAT argument, which first of all, I vehemently disagree with the LeBron GOAT argument. But if you ever want to be like, he's the GOAT, I'm like, prove it. You'd be like, well, when he was 46 years old, he destroyed the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, I see him destroy the DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry Raptors. I see him destroy the Paul George, Roy Hibbert, and Pacers. But I was like, oh, man, like, that's not a real team. If he ever faced a real team, the Grizzlies were a real team. He dominated them. I was like, okay, maybe he is the GOAT. Shit. Or maybe they're trash. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, so now that we've got to this point, thank you so much, guys. I wanted, honestly, an honest Jordan Poole retrospective because I'm a Jordan Poole fan. Always was, man. Always support Jordan Poole. He really cared about being a Warrior. He really cared. I really appreciate him for that. Splash nephew. Before we move on to the juicier part of the conversation, which we're all waiting for, I would love to hear your favorite Jordan Poole memory. Dr. Tom, you can start with us, please.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. It's like, see, maybe this is the thing. Is like I'm one isn't really coming to mind. I mean, I do get a kick out of the, again, speaking of Memphis, him shooting the shot that was so bad that Steph Curry threw his mouthpiece and got ejected, but then he goes on and wins the game winner, or it's the game winner against him. That's a good one. I do remember that in the finals, him hitting that half court shot that kind of again sort of kept momentum in game 2 in particular. And I think he had another in game 5 too. Didn't he have one in game 5 too? I could be wrong about that, but I do remember that, and especially because, as you pointed out, by that point in the playoffs, they were putting the clamps to him in a way that was sort of slowing him down, and so you like to see him have those moments. But yeah, I do think a lot about that shot there this season where he shoots a shot that's so ridiculous that Steph, chucks his mouthpiece and gets ejected, but he still hits the game winner to make up for it. So in a way that it's representative of the Jordan Poole experience, I think I'm going to go with that one.
So there were 3 chapters. The game 2 against Boston shot. I think his play, there was like that 5-minute 21-0 run in game 6 of the finals, which really created that separation, is brilliant. Game 1 against Memphis, I think he had 31 points in that game that Draymond Green got suspended for, so you could pick any one of those. However, I'm going to go with, I think it was against Denver, and when Steph was coming off the bench, if I remember rightly, but and there was a technical foul called, and Steph was on the court, and he went to the line to take the free throw. And to be fair, he had led the league in free throw percentage that year, but you've got Steph Curry there, who is literally the all-time leader of free throw percentage. And they had to come up to him and go, no, Steph's taking this shot. And, he acquiesced. But to me, that, there was just, that symbolizes the Jordan Poole experience. I think he drew the technical. He was well qualified to take that shot. And in any other circumstance, he'd take that shot. But you've got Steph Curry there. So, just pump the brakes a little.
I love both those stories because both of them involve Steph. I think that was the best thing about Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole was the first player that Steph Curry was like, hey, man, I'm going to show you how to be like me. And Jordan Poole was like, I want to know. And that first year with Steph Curry injured with a bad hand, remember? Jordan Poole was just doing his damnedest work with Draymond Green and figuring it out. And how many times do we hear Fitz say, like, that was real Steph and Draymond-esque? So many times Jordan Poole in that game. My favorite moment with Jordan Poole actually happened during the play-in tournament against LeBron and Lakers. And in LA, game on the line, LeBron and Jordan Poole are in a one-on-one in the fast break. And LeBron is old, but he's still LeBron. And here comes Jordan Poole, head of steam, no Klay Thompson. It's Steph, Jordan Poole, and Draymond. And Jordan Poole tried to dunk on LeBron James. When I watched that live, I was like, this guy's insane. But I love him for that. I love him that he wanted to go head on with LeBron James as a warrior. He wanted to be like, I watched those finals when I was a kid. I know you're weak. I'm dunking on you. Warriors beat LeBron every time. That's what I know from my youth. Mm-hmm. And LeBron was like, this is real life, bro. I'm twice your size. I'm going to obliterate this. But the fact that Jordan Poole got that, he was that close to posterizing LeBron in a play-in game with no fans in the crowd. It was him and LeBron and the Warriors versus LeBron. And Jordan Poole knew the assignment, knew the moment. I was like, I'm going to dunk on him. He didn't make it. I always loved the fact that he tried. Should have been a foul. Referees were like, who's this young kid?
I didn't know Monte Ellis was that tall.
Now that's the real question. Who was better, Monte or Jordan Poole?
One of those guys has a ring, so.
Now I want to go to the part I've been dreading. And I'm so glad to be on the call with you guys because both of you guys are savants of the game, real fans, accredited authors. Why did we trade for Chris Paul? And I respect Chris Paul as a Hall of Famer. But why did we trade for Chris Paul? Patrick, please help me.
I was asking myself that. It's a deal with the basketball devil. I mean, well, it's a tale as old as time, was my first thought, which is, the Houston Rockets, a couple of years removed from couple of rings with Elijah One, trading with Charles Barkley, didn't work. Karl Malone joining the Lakers, a couple of years after that, didn't work.
Was it the finals, though?
Lakers. Yeah, Steve Nash joining the Lakers didn't work. Yeah, and they they're Shaq and Kobe and they lost to the Pistons. Respect to that Detroit Pistons team, but chemistry blew them apart. But I kind of my initial kind of thought on this was like, this is classic desperation move. We haven't got enough out, the value proposition of it. How are we the ones giving them a first round pick? They traded Bradley Beal, didn't get a first round pick. All of that stuff. And then I and Dr. Tom kind of talked some sense in our Slack chat, and I kind of thought about it, and I just. He does, basketball-wise, he does the things...
In transmission. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It feels really...
He's a basketball one, and my heart just was...
it's really grimy, given, the history. It is a deal with the basketball devil, but this team, I think now I'm looking at this team and I'm thinking... because of the other moves they've got, and they've got free agency. I like the draft they had.
No, Patrick, give me your top 3 reasons the Warriors lost in the playoffs, and then give me how Chris Paul fits into those. I want to hear this.
Okay. Like top 3. Well, top 3 things that on the court lost in the playoffs: late game execution, disaster, right? Oh. Horrific. And can I just point out that wasn't just Jordan Poole. Steph Curry almost lost a game, gave a game away. Klay Thompson's shots in game 4 against the Lakers were I was sick to my stomach.
Draymond Green's dropping on people.
Yeah. I mean, so late game execution, number 1. Number 2, and you were pointing this out the last time we spoke, Daniel, what's our play at the end of the game? Dribble, Steph Curry, isolate Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis on skates begging for mercy.
And you're like, this is an insane strategy. And you know what? We need a change up. We didn't have that second unit. Used to have Sean Livingston coming down. He used to have, getting in the mid post, mid range. We always had a change up, right? Kevin Durant gave us that. Last time, Wiggins actually played really, really well, but he wasn't in rhythm, having missed half the season. So I think late game execution. I think the ability to do something. Do something different on offense, particularly in the playoffs when defenses slow down. You're in the half court, the movement isn't working. You've just got to run.
No Stephen Wiggins pick and roll. Shocking.
And then, the third is chemistry. I think just generally, like throughout the season, kind of doomed them. So I think the first 2. Like Chris Paul is who is better than those 2. The third is going to be very, very interesting how the chemistry on this team works out. But I can't believe, and like Marcus Thompson, the Athletic, has kind of written about this and kind of talked about this, and like the people who are really plugged in, like him, are kind of signaling that they wouldn't have done this unless, well, they know a number of things. 1, Steph Curry's fine with it. 2, Chris Paul's fine with coming from the bench, and 3, Draymond Green's coming back. So it's a 1 year. It could go longer, but it's at least, it's a 1 year thing.
Okay, Patrick, hold on. Patrick, I just want to say this part right here. Together. You mentioning Draymond coming back, underrated part of this point. Underrated part, because we think of it so much on the Jordan Poole perspective, the Warriors management perspective. We don't talk much about Draymond Green perspective. And I think that's just, he's always underappreciated. Him coming back is so integral. And maybe he doesn't come back if Jordan Poole's there. Who knows? I don't know. But I do think it's important to note Draymond Green's desires are an important part of the conversation. And now, Dr. Tom, I want to swing it to you. Warriors are down 2. Mm-hmm. 8 seconds left against the Denver Nuggets. Mm-hmm. How do you want the sequence to go? Is the ball in Chris Paul's hands while the Warriors run some off-ball screens? Or do you have Chris Paul in the corner as a knockdown shooter? Or are you saying, Chris Paul, you're not on the court at all?
Well, I think for the Nuggets, because they're a bigger team, he's probably, you're probably going with, Looney, Draymond. You're going with the starting 5 because you've got to deal with Jokic and they've got that size. I think that's, it's Paul, he's a player, he can be that guy in the second unit, the Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, a smaller, David West, was kind of doing that at the bigger position, but this guy who can kind of lead, he's obviously it's about the ball being in his hands. He can lead that second unit. And then if you need to go small ball, I think you could see a Draymond, Wiggins, Klay, Steph, Chris Paul, and then then maybe you're saying you're freeing up Steph to be even more off ball. If you're saying we have this great sort of traditional point guard in these small ball units, maybe that frees him up to be off ball, which might make it easier for him to get better looks because he's not only being the one who has to initiate the offense too, but I think it'll be circumstantial. And I think, because you brought up Denver, I'm like, well, they've got a little more size. So he's probably not going to be out there, but I'm trying to think of another team who's probably maybe like you look at Phoenix, for example. they're going to be a little smaller with Booker, Beal, KD. I think you might say, okay, maybe we go because, you've got two pretty slight guards in the backcourt there. Okay, maybe this is where we go small and we do put Paul out there with the closing lineup. So I think it's all going to be, it's going to be circumstantial. And I think again, to Patrick's point, and others have said this too, they don't make that trade if Paul doesn't go in knowing this and understanding this. Like he has to, that this it's not his team, it's not his show, but he can come in and can have meaningful contributions and be a part of something that, that wins, and that will give him these things that have kind of eluded him his entire career. So I don't think the kind of it's almost like those questions are they're almost, I think, I don't want to say irrelevant, but like everything's going to be situational and circumstantial. And I think of Steve Kerr's strengths as a coach, and I think one of them is identifying the situations and knowing, okay, this is what we need to do against this team or in this situation. I don't think he's going to say, well, I guess it's closing line. We got to have Chris Paul out there when it's a bigger team, and that's going to just get manhandled if you're playing small. But he's going to look at when it's a team that runs a little bit on the smaller side. He's going to say, okay, we don't have to worry about size as much, and we have this advantage when we go small. So let's do it there. So I think the question, it's not the question to be asking. At least that's kind of the way I see it, or way I think about it.
So Chris Paul is just another gear in the machine.
Well, we're all just gears in the machine, But it's as I'm kind of it's for the kind of the ways to think about it. And Patrick brought up the typical kind of old guy chasing a ring, and how it's gone, has not worked with Barkley and with Malone and Peyton with the Lakers. But there's just a few that, like, again, it's why I maybe see this in a little bit more of a positive light. I think a lot about he was obviously a more integral player, but Rodman coming to the Bulls in that second three-peat. I mean, you talk about a hated player. Those Bulls and Pistons teams hated each other, and they said, but this guy's going to make us better. Bring him in, and we're going to deal with it. Also, it's appropriate because I'm wearing one of my Grateful Dead shirts. Just because I watched the really great 30 for 30 on him, the Bill Walton going on those 86 Celtics, as somebody who, like Paul, couldn't stay healthy, and someone where you say, okay, you're coming off the bench, you're going to be this sixth man, but you can anchor that unit, and there might be opportunities in the right situation where you might be in the closing thing. It's just going to be all circumstantial. And then this is a cross sport one, but for all of the, Oakland Raider fans, when they were the Oakland Raiders, when in 2002, they brought in Bill Romanowski, who I remember, was with the Niners and Broncos, and you just hated that guy, and he was just trouble, but came in and it was like, oh, now he's one of us. Okay, let's go. And like, I could that's kind of almost where my mind went when I thought about a player who I just absolutely despised and then comes and plays on my team. And I'm like, all right, no, now all that stuff I used to hate, I don't mind it as much. So that's kind of the way I'm rationalizing it, at least in a kind of a larger conceptual sense.
I love that, man. I think that's the beauty of sports fandom, is whoever puts your colors on, you always want to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's why I think it's important to give love and flowers to Jordan Poole, and also give an opportunity to Chris Paul to be the person that he's supposed to be for the Warriors. Because at the end of the day, it's basketball, man. We're just all trying to get some enjoyment out of it. I think when you look at it in terms of like history and dynasty, that's where it's so interesting to have an antagonist like this join the empire. It's like, wow, like not only do we like not only do we like play the best basketball possible, but like the people who were our biggest rivals enjoyed how we whooped their ass. Like Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, like even David West. David West had an opportunity to come to the Warriors before he went to the Spurs, and he chose the Spurs. Big mistake, David. But he was able to see how the Warriors play. I was like, you know what? I want to go with those guys. That's a huge honor for us as Warriors fans. That's a huge honor for us as, we watched this Golden State team go through a lot of ups and downs where nobody wanted to come. And if they did come, it was just, a transit to a better location. How many times do you look at somebody who's like balling for another team? And you look at, how many fans watched Tim Hardaway play for the Miami Heat? Was like, he's a Miami Heat legend. He's like, actually, he started his career with the Golden State Warriors. Chris Webber, Sacramento Kings, started career with the Golden State Warriors. There are so many players out there who had some dynamic years with the Warriors, but got their glory elsewhere. I mean, even Bernard King. I mean, come on, Robert Parrish. The list goes on and on. And that's why in the Jordan Poole scenario, this is one of the few times where I'm not like, oh no, another person came and the Warriors going to leave us and do such and such. I'm like, you know what? Thanks, man. Thanks. Like, I appreciate you and for what you brought to this franchise. Your blood, sweat, and tears were invaluable for us. I wish you the best. Because we've got Mike Dunleavy, baby. Mike Dunleavy's at the helm. We're A-OK. That's what I tell myself as I drink. That's what I tell myself. And there's a new problem in town, guys. I'll have to close with this. Everything we said on here, I think should be one full podcast. I think should be digested completely in a unit, because this is ultimately what we're saying. We spend so much of our time blogging, writing, podcasting about how the Golden State Warriors were the top of the mountain. And even when we lost, it was like, because we weren't healthy. Now, these Denver Nuggets pose a whole new threat that even the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder of old never gave me this level of fear, because I always knew we could beat those other teams. I knew we could, because their strength was at their wings. The Denver Nuggets' strength is in the center. Has always been the fear from the Golden State Warriors that one day some franchise was going to get the right big man. I was going to make going small seem stupid. Somehow, the Denver Nuggets feel like they're going small when they're big as hell.
I thought it was the Utah Jazz.
The Utah Jazz, Rudy Gobert, Gordon Hayward. Are you kidding me? Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles. Are you kidding me? You don't have enough firepower. You think you're going to stop us with shot blocking? Shot blocking and rebounding? We're shooting it from 35 feet away. Are you kidding me? The Nuggets also shoot from 35 feet away, apparently, with their center. The things that man did to Anthony Davis were unspeakable. He was shooting step back, fall away threes on Anthony Davis with the clock running down. Cash. Guys, I told you we did James Wiseman. I told you.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that James Wiseman could play defense?
Kevon Looney. So, and I'll tell you one thing. And I don't want to upset any Denver Nuggets fans, because I think Jokic is an incredible player. They deserve their ring. They're brilliant. It is really, really hard to repeat. Right? It is really hard. They are about to lose Bruce Brown in free agency. They've got, Michael Porter's got an injury history. And what they didn't have to do was face a team who would put Nikola Jokic in the pick and roll, repeatedly and have that kind of drop hedge coverage. You do that to Steph Curry. You saw what he did to the Boston Celtics 2 years ago. So I'm like, this team is loaded up. It's ready to go. They're not going to have empty roster spots. They're going to have 14 people who can play, and they got some of the best basketball minds there are. That doesn't mean it. They're definitely going to beat the Nuggets. The Nuggets are great, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Nuggets are going to repeat. It's hard. It's hard.
I know it's hard. You know what else is hard? Guarding Nikola Jokic. This guy is so dominant. It's like you're not even keeping track of his stats because he's always making the right decision. And you're like, he had 37 points, 22 rebounds, 17 assists. You're like, oh, what? The Golden State Warriors at this level of their dynasty are going to have to face a team that is constructed to destroy them. They have the size, they have the shooting, they have the playmaking, they have the defense. That is the best team ever. First of all, playing defense against the Warriors only means you won't get swept. That's all it means. If you play defense, you won't get swept. Okay. The Nuggets can go into a shootout and feel comfortable with that. I think we need one more move. I think we need a big move. Chris Paul is fine. We need to find a way to find a player that is going to allow Andrew Wiggins to be excited. I don't know if Chris Paul can do it. I believe there's a big man out there who can allow Andrew Wiggins to basically play an inverted 5 position because he's always at the 3-point line creating space.
Don't do this.
He's got to be young. He's got to be 7 feet tall.
No.
He probably plays for the Detroit Pistons right now.
Andre Drummond?
I miss James Wiseman. I'm sorry. It's worth blowing it up anyway. Why do you leave? I mean, I love Gary Payton as well. I love Gary Payton. Gary Payton's a much better player. But I miss James Wiseman. Is that me wrong for that?
Rick Mahorn? You gotta get Rick Mahorn?
You can't stop Jokic. I mean, like where you're right is like Jokic he's a beast. Like and you can't really stop him. You can only hope to slow him down, right? So I think if you try and construct your team in a way that you're trying to get people to stop him, like he just, as you said, he destroyed Anthony Davis. He's probably one of the best big man defenders in the game. So I just don't. I think you've got to make him work on the other end. And I think Looney and Draymond Green between them did about as good a job as you can do in the playoffs last year. The question is, you've then got to stay home. The real change this year was that you're staying home on all the shooters around them. They had the wing defense, they had the shooters, and as I say, like they're going to lose one of their. They played basically about a 6.5 man rotation. They're going to lose one of their key players. So let's just see before we anoint them kind of a 10-time champion or whatever. They're a very worthy champion. Jokic is one of my favorite, probably my favorite non-Warriors player. But like, I look at this roster we've got now, and I think a couple of changes and a couple of free agent signings. I'm not out on the Warriors winning the next.
You don't believe in the Denver Nuggets. You don't believe in the Denver Nuggets. Just say it. Just say it.
They won the title. They were worthy winners of the title. They destroyed everyone in their path. And I believe that if the Warriors had got through, the Warriors would not have beaten them because the iteration we had this year was just all disjointed. But I do believe that no one can defend Steph Curry in the way that they scheme Nikola Jokic in defense. If you do that, you are going to get burned. So they're going to have to. So they will lose a game at least in a series doing that, and then they'll have to change up the defense, and then there'll be other things that open up. And like I think it will be if that series happens, it will be a really fascinating battle of basketball wills against the two best players in the game today, which is Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic. You talk about Nikola Jokic's dominance, absolutely right. Have we forgotten Steph Curry is like
Steph Curry is going to annihilate them. It's going to annihilate them. It's going to annihilate them. Steph Curry is going to rain fire on them.
The one thing, this is the one thing about this trade that really. It all comes down to health. Like, and we know this because we've been watching the Warriors play almost a decade at championship level in 6 finals, 4 rings, all of that stuff. Only one repeat. The three-peat was ripped apart with the ligaments, tendons flying everywhere. Like, it is hard. It's taxing. You've got to have depth to do it. And we are in a situation where health is like a major factor here. And I think you've got with Chris Paul, that's like the big question mark, right? But if you max him out at 50, 55 games and 20, 25 minutes a game in the regular season, and you've got enough players around to pick up the slack in the regular season, which I think they will, to get a decent seed, you put yourself in a position where you have a chance, and you're a genuine contender. And by the way, can I just, the Nuggets, I believe in the Denver Nuggets. I'll tell you a team I don't believe in, and this may come back to bite me, but I don't believe in the Phoenix Suns because I believe you need to play.
Whoa, wait a minute. Dr. Tom, weigh in. Dr. Tom, right now, weigh in, Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom, are the Phoenix Suns or the being fair? They got Bradley Beal, who every Warriors fan 3 years ago thought was the answer. And they had Kevin Durant, who actually was the answer. What are your thoughts?
I believe in Kevin Durant. I don't know if I believe in the Phoenix Suns. But I think, to the point you're making about like the health, and this has come up in some of the reporting on the trade. It's the Warriors betting on their training staff, betting on Rick Celebrini. If you go through and you look at Otto Porter Jr.'s the games played, there's a one outlier, and it's when he was with the Warriors, and he played a lot more games than he normally does. And Klay Thompson, after those multiple leg injuries, still came back and played. He struggled in the postseason, but played great in the regular season. So they're, I think, saying look, if anybody's gonna be able to keep Chris Paul as healthy as he can be, it's us. We're betting on our training staff. And I think you hesitate to these kind of things because they're so variable and they're so unpredictable. But I think I keep going back to that Otto Porter Jr. thing that you just saw, he stayed healthy for the Warriors in a way that he never did it. And he has, and certainly didn't last year. So I think if anybody can do it, and coupled with Steve Kerr's approach to, keeping minutes down as much as you can in the regular season, that you have some depth there with Moody, with Gary Payton II, that you can hopefully offset that load in the regular season. You obviously don't know how it's going to happen, but I think the path forward for Paul being on the court seems more probable for the Warriors in this situation relative to had he gone to another team. I would have more questions about their ability to keep him physically healthy and maintained.
Y'all bought in. Y'all are bought in. Y'all are okay with this. I am too. We're all in synergy there. I don't know how I'm going to feel when we have a game-winning flop. I'm going to feel probably great, probably awesome. But there's going to be some point where Chris Paul is going to take a gentle brush to the chest and do a backflip. And I'm going to be like, you know what? Let's take it.
After how many years of seeing Steph Curry get a forearm shiver and nobody calling it, calling a foul on the defender or anything like that. You know what? We've earned some of these. So I got no problem with it.
That's a great point, Dr. Tom. Nobody has suffered more from referee bias than us. Maybe it's about time that we got some foul merchants on our team. Guys who know how to play the game, play the politics the right way.
Right.
Rome had to evolve as well.
I can hear Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson talking about it right now.
One of the greatest coaches of all time, Mark Jackson.
I thought you were going to say Jeff Van Gundy.
Okay, look. I think we're at the 7-hour mark for this podcast. I want to thank Patrick and Dr. Tom for joining me today. This was very cathartic for me. Now I'm a believer. I understand that Chris Paul's going to help this team, and I can't wait for it. But I'm also looking out for the next move. So thank you all for listening and tuning in. We got more on the way. Obviously, it's a long summer, but we got a lot on our chest. Want to get off for your enjoyment. So thank you for joining us. And welcome, Chris Paul, to the Golden State Warriors.